Shalom, I want to report to you about our experience in converting 75 people to Judaism in Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim country and the fourth largest country in the world, in January. Indonesia is a Muslim country, as I said. It's got 17,000 islands. It's a huge distance. In fact, Java, where Jakarta is, the capital, the width of it is about half the width of the United States, just that one island. So how did all this begin? Well, we have an online conversion program. It's designed for people in remote areas or people who can't, there's no rabbi around or there's no class that they can attend. And it's based on our 700 videos on YouTube plus standard conversion curriculum with books and readings and everything else that a pretty standard conversion curriculum requires. And we were approached by two fellows in Indonesia. Now, these people have been practicing Judaism for a long time, and there's no rabbi in all of Indonesia, and there are no other Jews practicing. And they said that there were communities of people practicing Judaism, they just weren't Jewish, and they wanted to convert. Now, this fellow's grandfather was Jewish, the main leader of the community, and met a lot of other people who we converted who had Jewish ancestry, either from their grandparents, great-grandparents, or further back. Others were converting just like people do. They came to it intellectually after being disenchanted with either Judaism or Islam, mostly Christianity, being disillusioned with Christianity or Islam, mostly Christianity. So these two guys studied, and then we converted their families too, and then we converted their families, and then they taught all these other people, many of whom did not speak English. They taught them in Indonesian. So after they had finished their studies, and these guys told us that they were prepared, we went to Indonesia. We flew to an island called Manado, and were met there by people from Manado and also a group from Ambon, another island, who took a 3-day boat trip in heavy seas to get there. In fact, one lady got so seasick she couldn't convert. She ended up in the hospital. And then there was a small group, too, part of the Ambon community that came from a certain island. Anyway, we met in Manado, had our Beit Din interviews. The men had Hatafat Brit, and then they immersed in the ocean. Now, in Indonesia, it's illegal to be naked in public, except, I guess, in some Bali beaches, maybe. But in any case, they couldn't do that, and so we allowed the Talmudic-approved leniency of loose clothing, and there's also a conservative decision from 1969 by rabbis saying that you can do this in such circumstances. So then the conversion probably wouldn't be valid, certainly for Orthodox and maybe conservative, but these people really, really wanted to be Jewish. They had reached out to other organizations, none of whom would help them, and whoever considers their conversions valid, so they'll be valid for them, and they'll continue to live as Jews. The rabbi I went with is a Reform rabbi, member of the Central Conference of American Rabbis, and hopefully they'll get widespread recognition from the Reform movement. So we had Manado, and we had the Beit Dins and homes of the various leaders of the communities, and a lovely time, met great people. And by the way, I'm going to show a link to pictures and also a link to my article about this, which will have several of the essays of the people explaining why they did this. And from Manado, we then went to Jakarta, which is the capital, and whereas Manado is 80% Muslim, or 90% Christian, Jakarta is 90% Muslim. It's a city of over 25 million people, you can imagine. And we met at a hotel, the hotel we were staying at, in fact, and I had the Beit Dins out in a courtyard, beautiful courtyard there, sat around all day interviewing people. We had the mikveh in the ocean, the Indian Ocean, and there were hundreds of Muslims around. And that was the only time I was nervous. But the people converting weren't nervous. There was a lady wearing an Israeli flag on her T-shirt, and another guy's wearing tzitzit. And the leader told us that the people, Muslims observing, probably thought that we were Christians. And there were Muslim services going on in the background. It was Friday afternoon, after all. It was really an amazing experience. The people were so happy, and they sang right in public there. Then that night, it was Shabbat, so we had dinner at a restaurant, second floor, and had Kabbalat Shabbat there, had a Shabbat dinner, sang, laughed, told stories. The next morning we met where the main group in Jakarta always meets, in the home of one of the members who has an Aron Kodesh and a beautiful Sephardic Torah. I had never learned from a Sephardic Torah before, so that was really interesting. And the leader of the community learned from that Torah. and they had the leader of the Jakarta shul davening, and there was a woman, Chazanit, who's a member, and a beautiful voice, and she had tunes all that I recognized. I said, "Where'd you get it?" She downloaded it from the internet, from some New York synagogue. It's amazing what the internet allows today. In any case, in deference to Indonesian custom, they all took their shoes off, and they had the women in the back and the men in the front, kind of like an Orthodox, well, there was no mechitza, because that's the way the Muslims do it. And I think they were sort of, you take on indigenous cultural characteristics of the local community. It was a beautiful service, and then we had lunch, talked all afternoon, answered questions. Some people took naps, and then we had Shalashudas and Havdalah, and then we noticed that people weren't leaving. And then they told us later, they were laughing, that it's a custom not to leave until the guests leave. So we had to leave so that other people could leave. It was really a fantastic experience. Lots of stories about Indonesia. The thing I'll never get over, all the motorbikes. People have like small motorcycles, and they drive them everywhere, and sometimes they pile whole families on these little bikes. And I have no idea how the driving works. People drive on the British side, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of stoplights, and somehow it all seems to flow, and you don't see many accidents. And the traffic is crazy in Jakarta. But all in all, it was just a fantastic experience. The time difference is huge. First of all, it's 20 hours of flying time from Chicago, and they are 13 or 14 hours ahead of Chicago time. So that was quite an adjustment. But beautiful souls, great people, really wonderful, and they're so dedicated to Judaism. And they want to build Jewish community in the largest Muslim country in the world. It's quite a story, really amazing. We were very happy to be part of it.